everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today we've got the Sig Sauer P320 Tacops here on the table. A couple of weeks ago we had picked it up and we put out kind of a first look video on it. Well, we've since had time to get it to the range, put a few rounds through it, and I can give you a little bit more information about it at this point. So let's start out with just the basics. It is, of course, unloaded. The gun itself is, for the most part, just a Sig Sauer P320. This one is chambered in 9mm. This particular one is the carry size frame, and usually you'll have an indication over here on these, but Sig Sauer has chosen to take the carry medium as kind of like the default, and they don't put any labeling on it. But if this were, let's say, the full size or the compact, there'd be a label here that would say compact. For example, on this one from the 45, you'll see this one is a compact large. So on the carry mediums, there'll be no indication whatsoever. This gun is allegedly available also in a full-size variant. I've seen listings for it on a couple online websites, but this is kind of a unicorn. It doesn't even exist on Sig Sauer's site. Nowhere on their site is there any mention of this. Now, if you're watching this video, a couple months after we issue it, they may have by then updated their site. But for the most part, it was internet folklore that it actually existed, and we stumbled across this in a local gun store and picked it up. So overall, it's a Sig Sauer P320 Carry, chambered in 9mm. The slide is the same as any other P320 in the carry size, and so is the grip. The primary differences are the threaded barrel, as you can see here, which is a little unique in the threading from some others that are typical for 9mm. It's 13.5 by 1 left-hand thread. So you go right to loosen it and left to tighten it, which is backwards from a lot of the others, which are a typical right-hand thread. It does have a Picatinny rail with 3 grooves, 3 lands, so there's plenty of room to put a laser, a light, or any kind of accessory on there. And it does have forward and back cocking serrations. The serrations are aggressive enough for them to be really easy to get a hold of, but they don't bite into your fingers or hurt your hands, so they're really suitable for doing a press check or any of the other things that you might want to do. There's also a little bit of a serration at the front of the trigger housing for those people that like to put the finger up front. The magazine release is your classic button magazine release, and it's highly effective. The magazines do pop free. Even if the gun is upside down, there's enough of a bounce that you know if it were right side up that it will forcibly eject the magazine and they drop right free. It does have, the slide release is kind of recessed with this little frame around it to try to keep it from hooking on things as you're either drawing or running your finger through it. But you will find that it is very easy to get a hold of with your thumb. It's not difficult to get. The shrouding doesn't make it difficult to catch with the thumb. And the takedown lever, this one has the low profile takedown lever. Well, some of the Sig Sauer P320s, and I kind of show it to you from the side, you can see how thin it is. The standard one on some of the other P320s is significantly larger, and it may be that Sig took some flack over that and has started issuing the thinner one, or it may be that might be one of the unique things about the Tacops. Without being able to look at their website to confirm it, it's kind of hard to tell which way that actually goes. This does come with the Sig Sauer Sig Light night sights, which have a white ring around them, which make them very easy to pick up during the day. Some night sights are a little difficult to see during the day. These we didn't have any problem with, and you're going to notice that they stand up pretty tall. They are suppressor height sights. So when you actually do get a can, and we've got one in the works, so look for a future video where we actually take this one and several other guns with the threaded barrels and try them out with a can. If you do get a can, you aren't going to have to worry about not being able to see your target over the can. The magazines are a little unique in this particular version, and they will take any standard magazines that will fit the carry or the full size. But these magazines, it comes with 4 of them, which was a little unique. And they hold 21. So, and then plus, of course, one in the pipe. So, when you pick this gun up, you're set up to just operate it right the way it comes, or if you want to put a suppressor, often called a can, on it, or any other type of muzzle device, right out of the box this thing is ready to go. So let me show you a few other things about taking it down. Takedown on this gun is very easy. You would of course confirm it's unloaded, which you can also do when you lock it back. You do have to lock it back to take it down. You just flip this lever down, and then now it's under spring tension, so make sure you have a hold of it. Release the slide release, and it pulls right off. Sometimes it'll hang up a little bit if the spring has moved a little bit, but it does generally come right apart. Now what you've got is the slide here and the frame, which I'll show you in a minute when I get this apart, has this module in it. And one of the big things about the P320 series is this interchangeable module and the ability to swap out grip frames. So I had the other grip frame. This is from a 45, and the 45s are not interchangeable. The 9, 357, and 40 can interchange back and forth the various frames and sizes, and the 45 you can only interchange the thickness of the frame, but you can't change it with any of the other calibers. But I happen to have a 45 one here so you can see what it looks like. And it's just basically a plastic housing. This is not a firearm. This you could buy anywhere that they have them available. No FFL, over the internet, anything else, because there's no functional components in it. The actual firearm is this metal chassis. So taking this chassis out is relatively easy. All you have to do is pop this out from the other side. You can just push it with your finger a little bit until it sticks out, grab a hold of it, and kind of wiggle it out. So there's the takedown lever and also the pin that holds the chassis in place. So once you've got the pin out, you just kind of pull it up and kind of pull it up and forward, and you do have to wiggle it a little bit to get it to come out. But it took a few seconds to do it. I wasn't putting any force on it. You don't want to be aggressive with it. You just kind of wiggle it forward and it'll come loose and it'll come right out. There's your firearm. Here's the serialized part. Here's the part that you have to go through an FFL to get. This is the whole functional components, the trigger group, the sear, everything is in here. This is a great advantage if you're in one of the states where you have to go through a lot of restrictions and paperwork to get a firearm, and where there's long delays. We're fortunate enough in Florida to be able to buy a firearm without any difficulty, but I know some of the other states it's a time-consuming process. With this, you can go through multiple calibers and effectively have multiple guns with only one official firearm. It's really solid. It's a well-constructed, solid piece, and when you're handling it, you can tell all the machining is nice and smooth, and a lot of time and effort was put into making this a good, solid little piece. I have no doubt this will be durable and last for years. Frame itself is fairly thin, but it's solid. It's not flex. It doesn't want to flex. Like when I give it a squeeze, it's nice and solid, so it's not flimsy at all. This is also fairly easy to clean when you've got it out like this because you have access to everything. Putting it back together is just a little more difficult, but not much. You have to put the trigger in first. Of course, you have to have it turned the right way. Put the trigger in first, and then pull it towards the front and kind of just rock it in. And once you've done it, you can do it that easily. But by putting the trigger in first, you kind of seesaw it in. And then you just take the locking pin and rotate it until it slides in. And then at the end, you want to have it in the up position, and then bring it down. And it locks in place. There you go. And now you're back in business. So now you've reassembled the frame, and you can put the slide back on it. Let's talk about the slide for a second. First off, in order to disassemble the slide, you have to get the barrel out, and to take the barrel out, you have to remove the thread protector. So you would unscrew the thread protector, and keep in mind when you're shooting this, due to thermal cycling, this is going to get loose. So you would either want to pick up a non-threaded barrel for just range play when you're not going to use a suppressor, or check this periodically so it doesn't end up flying down range. It's not a good idea to run with it off, because what you'll end up doing is gumming up these threads, and the threads are fairly fine and difficult to clean. And if you mess up these threads, you may have a problem when you actually decide to put a suppressor on it. Once that's off, pull out the recoil spring. It is a dual captive recoil spring. And then the barrel slides right out, and now you've got your barrel. Now the barrel is approximately 4.6 inches long, and then it adds a little bit additional length when you have the thread protector on it. So this combination adds roughly just under an inch to the overall length of the gun over a P320 that did not have a threaded barrel. And then you have the slide, your sear mechanism back here, and the drop safety is one of these levers back here, which is a little unique. If you're used to Glocks and XDMs and some of the others, they have a button up here. You know, the drop safety is back here, and they are a drop safe weapon. And everything in here is polished. You can see that it's very, very shiny and very well polished. And you'll also find that the feed ramp is kind of what I like to call machine polished. It's not polished to a mirror finish like somebody's actually spent time with it, but it is exceptionally smooth, and it was polished during the manufacturing process before it was coated. So you're unlikely to have any kind of feed issues with this. We had it to the range from the first round we put through it to the last one we chose for the day. It just worked. Didn't matter what ammo we were putting through it, it just ran. Reassembly is relatively easy. You do have to be a little careful not to beat the threads up, so you want to be a little gentle when you're putting it in. And because the barrel is longer than the overall room, you kind of have to tilt it and whittle it a little bit. Just be gentle with it, don't be in a hurry. Put the recoil spring back, and it's kind of self-centering. There's a little ledge it sits on. And then put the thread protector on. And you want to be real careful not to cross-thread it. If it doesn't go on just as easily as you see it going on, I actually could almost just kind of rub my thumb across it and it'll turn. Then you've got a problem. You want to back off and make sure you got the threads right. And then tighten it down kind of finger tight. You don't want to put tools on this. No matter how tight you tighten it, go after it with a wrench or pliers and tighten it as tight as you can. As soon as it gets hot, it's going to loosen anyway, but you've just damaged it with the pliers or whatever you used. Reassembly of the slide is real easy. Just like any other gun of this line, you line everything back up, pull it back, lock it back, release the lever, and you're ready to go. Now from a trigger perspective, the P320 series has a very nice trigger. Of course, I just added a part, so we do know it's unloaded. I'm going to reset it. I'm going to cycle it to reset it. There's your take-up. So there is a little more take-up than on some guns, but once you have the take-up taken out of it, there's your brake. Extremely short brake, and it's a very light brake. There's the reset, so it's a nice short reset, and you're back on the brake. Or you go all the way out, and then your take up, and then your brake again. It's a very smooth trigger. It's a very repeatable trigger. The trigger pull is very consistent, and it's very easy to get nice tight follow-up shots with it. One of the things we did find with this is due to the suppressor height sights, it's kind of a 12 o'clock hold gun. The first shots we did, and we'll show you at the end of the video, the very first shots we did had a nice tight group. It was low center. So we started doing a 12 o'clock hold with it and, centered up. Now we were at about 10 yards, which is, your classic self-defense distance, and it's also a good distance to be able to keep the gun in the camera and focus at the same time. As you go further out, I would anticipate that hold gap would lessen, but the higher the sights are above the bore, the more likely you are to have some differences to deal with. Overall, if you're looking for something with a threaded barrel, you're looking for something in the tactical area, they call this the Tacops, and you want some serious capacity, 21 rounds in a 9mm is pretty good, and you figure that +1 in the chamber. This is a really good choice. When you get the frame interchangeability, the ability to swap between calibers 40 and 357, of course with a threaded barrel, the compact size and the reliability, it's definitely a winner. Some of the others that you might be looking at if you're looking at this from a size comparison are something like this Walther PPQ, which is of course unloaded. This is the Navy, and it comes from the factory with a threaded barrel. So I'm going to show you side to side. If I line them up beaver tail to slide, you'll see that they're pretty close. They're within fractions of an inch in each other. Now if I line up the trigger guards, then you'll see that the Sig is a little bit longer. But overall, from end to end, length to length, they're roughly the same. When we look at the grip heights, the Sig is significantly taller, if I bring them around this way, is significantly taller with its extended magazine in it. But if you take out the extended magazine, which is 15 rounds on the PPQ, and you take out the 21 round extended magazine, Actually, I kind of misspoke. This is like, got a +2 extender, so it's 15 + 2. So this PPQ is 17. But if you take out the magazines, you'll see that the PPQ's grip is a little bit shorter overall than the Tacops, which again, this is just a P320 Carry from a frame perspective. So you've got a lot of capacity in a relatively small package that is about competitive with some of the others. And if this extra extended magazine was a problem, it will take the standard 9mm Carry magazines. One of the other guns that you might look at is the ubiquitous Glock 19. Pretty much every gun shop's going to have a Glock 19 that you can look at. And from a length perspective, a beaver tail to beaver tail, the overall gun itself is roughly the same length, and then you just have the additional inch of the threaded barrel. Now in the case of the Glock 19 has a significantly shorter grip, with or without the magazines. So the Glock 19 has, it's a little easier to conceal the Glock 19 because of course it's the grip that's difficult to hide. And on a Glock 19 with the flush mount magazine, you've got 15 + 1 capacity. So it kind of gives you just some perspective of some other guns in the same territory that you might be looking at. So it was a definite pleasure to shoot at the range. It'll be nice when we actually are able to get a suppressor to put on it. But other than that, if you're really looking for something in the 9mm that has some flexibility, here you go. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, check us out on Facebook, and have a great day. Thank you.